I know I can't fight 100 men, but the first 2 motherfuckers that I catch, oh, they gonna be on a t-shirt. After the first 2 hit the dirt, the next wave gonna hesitate. And that's when I turn strategic. No more swinging wild. Now I'm doing math.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry about that. I didn't set up any audio on this one. Let me go ahead and do that real quick and explain what we're doing today. So during testing, we will have to make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies to make sure it compiles on every system and whatnot. Me, have been incredibly fed up with doing that by hand. So what I have done is created a little utility that basically one-stop does it all for you, at least if you're on Linux. It's a good audio. We'll go Lotus today. I have no idea what this sounds like. And we'll loop it. Way too loud. Let's drop that down. Drop it down. There we go. Something a lot more reasonable. All right, so this will effectively work on every Linux distro under the suggestion that at least Ubuntu 20.04 or better. I haven't tested it on older systems, and I probably won't because 20.04 is about the oldest that most pools will have to deal with. This, that, and the other thing. 1 second, somebody's pinging me on the main. Got to see what that's about. Anyway. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Linux, right? A couple of commands. If you don't have Git installed, obviously you would want to sudo apt. Actually, let's talk about why I don't enter passwords. That has come up. The first thing you can do if you're new to Linux is sudo vsudo, if I can type correctly, and you scroll down to the end of your file here, and what you do is you put your username, all in caps, equals, all in parentheses, space, no password, all. It'll issue sudo commands without the need to do passwords. I do that back and forth. I will enable it after this video to harden my operating system. So what you would need to do first is sudo apt update and sudo apt install git. Right? Git is what we're going to be using to install this script. Now for me, it's already updated to the latest, so it'll just come back and say, you know, this, that, and the other thing. Ignore the auto app remove. I should have done that. I just forgot to. But that's the first thing that you need. So then the very next thing we are going to do is we're going to get the repository where this one-click installer is, and that is git clone https://github.com/nikovash/bit or God, I can't spell today. Bitoreum builder. It's going to clone it to the repository. Be good. So then we're going to have to get into the repository. So cd Bitoreum. Man, I just can't type today. Builder. And then we need to display what's all here, and what we're going to be doing is issuing this, but it currently doesn't have permissions to run, so we're going to change that. We're going to change mod and give it executable privileges. Oops. Different systems, different keys. Copy, paste. Okay. Now, before we actually do this, I always recommend installing screen. I have it already installed, so we're going to do this in a screen, and we're going to call it, I don't know, build. Still inside the same folder, so now what we need to do to execute that is build. I just can't type today. Bitoreum.sh. It's going to go ahead and first it's going to upgrade your operating system, see if there's software that it needs to actually work. which apparently it found some things, and that will be prefaced off of this right here. There were updates that needed to be done, but once all of that, we are going to either clone it from the main repository or a branch. In this case, we don't have branches, so we just want to type main, right? That's going to pull this from the main repository, and then it's going to say we can select a build target. Now this has a fair bit of logic in it, and it has already said default 1 because it is detected that I am a Linux 64-bit x86 system, which I am. But you can build for any as long as you're on the right architecture, including we got Raspberry Pi, which has some uniqueness to it, and Oracle's Ampere or Ampere in general. The logic for Ampere doesn't work, so if you are actually on an Ampere one, go ahead and manually select it. But for the rest of them, it's pretty good, so we're going to hit 1. That's it. This now is just going to do everything on its own. This process takes about 20 minutes, so I'm going to shut the hell up. You can listen to music, and that's going to be the end of it, okay? I'll see y'all in 20 minutes. My bad, I forgot that it goes to sleep after a while. All right, welcome back on the other side. Oh, wow. Hold on, sorry. I forgot I left the music on. That's really loud. That's better. Okay, so that's it. We're now built. Now, before I show you what it built, I want to make a very interesting note. It actually built 2 full versions of this application. Now, the first build is this one right here, where it says contents of home, Kojak, Bitoreum build, Bitoreum build. This is the main build that you would normally have done. This is a second build for debugging, okay? And then third is for not stripe, which is could have bad characters in it. So it'll create these 3 effective versions of the application, both in terms of binaries and in terms of zips. Now the zips are important, and we'll always put this at the home directory of whatever user you run this at. So in my case, it's Kojak, it's yours, it would be whatever. It'll put everything in Bitoreum build, right? Here's the main source files from which it did all of the running. Here is the build folders, the 3 that it created, the main build, the debug build, and the not straight build. And then finally the compressed, which actually are, compresses it using max gun zip compression to get your regular debug version and not stripe. These can be kind of big, particularly the debug version, 181 megs. The regular one I think gets right around 31, 29 megs depending on your OS. But if you don't want to deal with zips, which sometimes you don't, you can just open up the build folder, and here are the applications that you would want. You would run that one if what you have is a GUI, which is the Qt, which is this version of the app right there. Okay. I don't want to run it because it's already running, and it'll give me an error that's saying you're already running this. But that's it. So congratulations, you just built code from source, and depending on your ability, this could be the first time you've ever built something from source. There's a lot of thought that went into this. It will automatically install things in the background. So before you run this, I would actually very much recommend going and checking out the GitHub and seeing what it'll do. Oops, sorry. I like to watch TV when I'm at work. So it would be under the Bitoreum builder, okay? The file that you would want to look for is the Bitoreum build.sh, and in here, this will tell you exactly what the script is doing, right? I forgot to remove that one character, but it's fine. I don't normally like those non-standard characters. They can create problems, but clearly it was fine. I saw it and I was like, oh, I thought I took all those out. But here it is, and so here's what it installs right at the beginning, okay? So it'll do a sudo apt update and the distro upgrade. It'll say yes to automatically do it, and it will try to install all of this software. This is because of Raspberry Pi, mostly. These things are not installed on the Ubuntu versions of Raspberry Pi, probably to save space. I don't really know, but these are the ones that are basically required to guarantee that this app, or that the make process, compiling process actually works. We actually do install a alt install version of Python 3.10.17, the last version of Python 3.10. The reason is that there are 2 dependencies that actually require this, and if you just try to install Python next to your Python 3.12, which most modern OSs use, you'll brick your system. So this installs it as an alt install. So you're good to go, and here it'll reference that. So this is the entire app in its core, or I guess app isn't really, this is a script, but everything here is at the Bitoreum builder for you to check out. If you are a Dash clone or a Raptorium clone, this script will effectively work from you with some very minor tweaks. Go ahead and read through all of it, and it's pretty comprehensive. It tells you how to run the software. I do have some documentation on advanced options, FAQs, things like that. I have tested this on ARM 22 and 24, Raspberry Pi 24, Ubuntu 24. I have not tested it on a 32-bit Linux operating system anymore. I don't have access to one, either in the ARM or the x86 variant. So these two I probably will never be able to test, although I don't have any reason to think why they wouldn't work. But I'm just being 100% honest. I haven't tested them because I just can't. And I think a lot of people probably going forward won't have that ability unless you have some old tech. I just don't have anything that old anymore. I finally got rid of my last Mac Mini that would have been able to do this too. But yeah, so here's the documentation for it. Thank you so very much for tuning in and watching. I know that was a long, arduous process just to get to the end, which is actually the more exciting point. There is also an application I forgot to point out that is also in that one under the utilities folder, or extra, sorry. This is a upload utility. Okay, now this utilizes OwnCloud, right? So you would put your OwnCloud WebDAV here, and then you would make a folder that would have shared upload privileges. And I do it without a password as an upload Dropbox only. And for Bitoreum, you would put that text output of whatever that folder is. So you'd have the main one up there and then the clone. And then that way, when you type update or upload --Bitoreum, which I'm not going to do because it'll try to overwrite files that I don't want, it'll go ahead and do this and it'll log it. There is a README here as well about some general information about that. I think the only thing that it's missing is when you are creating this log file, you will have to give whatever user you're currently on permissions on it, because everything in the var log is really for root, and I don't make root calls in this, so you will have to give this specific file user access, or it'll just give you permission denied and it won't actually log any errors or status checks or anything like that for that. But outside of that, it's the only thing missing here. I did make some changes here to also include the note about prerequisites, sudo privileges, screen, and then the first thing you would want to do is update Git. The version of 20.04 that I had for ARM did not have Git installed initially, and that was weird because that normally is on Linux, but whatever. But after that, the rest of these are pretty straightforward. So if you were looking at this a couple of days ago, this install Git wasn't here, and now it is. Thank you so very much for tuning in, and I will see you all tomorrow for our standard weekly update on the Bitoreum project. Crystal Bitoreum has now been released. Thank you very much. Have a good night.